Okay folks, this is part 2 of our video on cleaning the Smith & Wesson M&P pistol. In part 1 we went over disassembly and reassembly. Here we're going to talk about actually cleaning the pistol. What I do, first of all, is get my tools ready. You will need a cleaning rod, which I have here. You will need a toothbrush. This is actually an M16 brush that's got the little bristles on the opposite end. You will need a bore brush, which I have here, and you will need either a looped end for your cleaning rod, or what I prefer are the properly sized bore jags, because they hold the patches closer against the inside of the bore. When I start out cleaning the pistol, and you will need some solvent. I like to use Hoppy's number 9. When I start out cleaning my handgun, I like to allow the solvent to do its job for a while. So I will take a cleaning patch and I will get it saturated in my Hoppy's. I'm just going to run it down in there. Let it get good and wet. Then I'm going to take my barrel, put the patch over the end of the barrel, just like so. And by the way, I'm using these forceps just because I do this a lot. I'm constantly working with solvents. And in order to keep it from affecting my skin, I try to limit my exposure to it. If you only clean firearms once or twice a year, it's not quite so much of a concern. Now, with the patch over the breech end of the barrel, which is the end with the chamber, I'm going to take my cleaning rod with the properly sized jag and just run that down through. I'll actually do this a couple of times with the cleaning, with the saturated patch, in order to make sure that I get the inside of the barrel well coated with the cleaning solvent. When done with that, I'll put my cleaning rod aside for a moment, and what I'm going to do is take that saturated patch that I've run a couple of times through the bore, and I'm now just going to wipe that over the entire outside surface of the barrel, just to loosen up or to start to saturate any fouling that might have made its way out of the barrel. And I'm now going to just lay the barrel off to the side, and I'm going to let it sit there for a while and let that solvent work. While that's happening, I'm going to take my slide, and I'm going to take that same cleaning patch, and I'm particularly going to run it down inside the grooves on the slide to help loosen up anything that might be down in there. And I'm going to put it back here on the breech face, and I'm going to get that good and saturated. You'll notice after you've shot your firearm that that breech face is going to get good and dirty. So we want to get that saturated. And then I'm just going to generally wipe out the inside of the slide with that cleaning patch. And I'm going to put that off to the side now. Lastly, you have your frame. You really don't have to do too much with that. I'm going to wipe off with this saturated patch a little bit right around the rails here, just in case there's anything that's made its way in there. We don't want anything interfering with that slide movement. And at this point, we're pretty much done with our cleaning patch, so I'm going to toss that into the trash can right there. I'm going to switch over to my brush. And I'm going to brush all those areas that I just put solvent on. I'm going to scrub those out real well. And then I'm going to take a clean rag and I'm going to wipe those areas out that I just brushed. An old t-shirt works well. The shop rags like I have here work pretty well. Just clean out all of those areas that you just scrubbed with the toothbrush. And make sure you don't have any fouling left there. If you see other places down inside where you have some heavy fouling, you can again take your toothbrush and scrub those out. I really don't have any places like that on here. Once you've done that, your frame is basically clean. You can lay that off to the side. Now we're going to do the same thing with our slide. Again, take your toothbrush, and particularly on those slide rails, you want to scrub those with the toothbrush. You want to scrub out the inside of the slide in general. And you want to pay, again, particular attention to the breech face right here. As you're scrubbing this, one area that you want to use, or that you want to make sure that you get, is underneath the extractor right here. This is where the M16 brush with these little bristles comes in handy, because I can get that right back underneath there, and I can scrub that out to make sure there's no foreign material, dirt, grime, or anything else that's going to interfere with the extractor's ability to pull that cartridge out once I put the pistol back together and start to actually fire it. Once you've loosened everything up, again, take your rag, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to wipe out all of those areas that you just scrubbed. Make sure that your breech face is nice and clean. Now, something I like to do, you can do this if you have a small screwdriver. You can do this, but be careful, because you don't want to damage any of your slide rails or anywhere under your extractor. But you can take that, you can run your rag with that item underneath the extractor to get anything out of there that you might have loosened up. And you can also then force your cleaning rag into the slide rails. Be very careful. You don't want to gouge these rails, you don't want to scratch them, which again is why if you have something that is not real sharp to use, an old dull screwdriver where the edges have been rounded works great. And just run that down both sides. Until you have those rails cleaned out. If you have buildup on the outside of your slide, or particularly this pistol where you have night sights, you can scrub those off as well, just to make sure that you don't have anything that's going to interfere with your ability to use those sights. At this point, your frame is done. You can lay that off to the side. Our barrel has been sitting here for quite a while with that solvent working on it. What I'm going to do is take my brush first and scrub off the outside, so that anything that we've loosened up on the outside of this barrel, or that the solvent has loosened up, we're going to scrub off. Make sure you get the speed ramp, make sure you get around the barrel hood, which is this part right here at the top. Scrub all that off, and then take your rag and just wipe it off. Get all the solvent off. At this point, the outside of your barrel is clean. Okay, to clean the inside of the barrel, we now have attached our bore brush to the end of the cleaning rod, and we're just going to run that back and forth through the barrel a few times. You can check it after 4, 5, 6 passes, and you should be able to see pretty well whether or not the inside of the bore is clean, and this is looking pretty good. So the last thing we have to do now is mop it out. Okay, we're now back to our properly sized cleaning jag and our cleaning patches, and what I'm going to do is just run these down through the bore. I'm going to work them back and forth a little bit as I go through. The first one that comes out is going to be pretty dirty, just like that. It usually takes me about 3 patches to get one to come out pretty well clean. We'll see how this goes today. This is patch number 2. I'm going to work it back and forth. Still seeing quite a bit of, if I can keep it from washing out in the light, quite a bit of fouling on there. It's pretty dirty. Okay, patch number 3. We'll see how I did. I'm just going to run this through. And patch number 3 is looking pretty clean. Last thing I'll cover is proper lubrication. Okay, we're going to talk about lubrication as we reassemble our pistol. One of the mistakes people tend to make is they over-lubricate their firearms in general, and their handguns is what we're talking about today. There are only certain places you have to put lubrication, which is why I like to use these bottles with the needle so I can put the lube right where I want it. I am going to put a drop on either side of the grooves inside the slide. I'm now going to start to reassemble my firearm. I'm going to put a drop of lubricant at the end of the barrel. And I'm going to put another drop right at the juncture between the front of the barrel hood and the slide, right here. Once I do that, I'm going to work the slide a few times to distribute that lubricant. At this point, my pistol is cleaned, it's properly lubed, it's ready to be reloaded and go back into my holster for duty. Hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, good shooting, and see you next time. Bye-bye.